Josh Jacobs?
You want to talk about Josh Jacobs? You want to know why I keep drafting him? Because I find him in mid to late round 5. And he's still set up to be the starting running back for the Raiders. That offense should be better this year. They should score more points this year. Offensive line's not great, but I think that there's definitely a chance where Josh Jacobs can at least match what he did last year, which is a number 2 fantasy running back in round 5. So maybe he could be a dead zone running back. I can't sit here and tell you that he's not. He takes on injuries. If he fumbles, he could end up on the bench because McDaniels could bench him. I think they like Zamir White, but maybe they view White as more of a long-term answer. So what do they do if Jacobs stinks? Do they immediately go to White, or do they give Jacobs a chance to play his way out of it? And if he doesn't stink, then he's their White knight. So I think that there's definitely a chance that Jacobs outperforms that type of ADP.
Are you taking Josh Jacobs or Chase Edmonds?
Jacobs. Even in full PPR.
Chase Edmonds in full PPR. Jacobs is one of those running backs who's kind of fallen throughout camp for me, but I don't necessarily disagree with Dave. I struggle with Jacobs versus Dobbins versus Akers right now.
If you got a couple of late round wide receivers, mid to late round,
sure.
Treylon Burks, Russell Gage.
They're unpopular. They were popular at one point, and now they're unpopular. People have read the headlines on Treylon Burks. They haven't done the diligence to actually watch him play. And I thought his best preseason game just happened. He was separating, no mayonnaise needed, and he had good hands on top of it. He played a lot this preseason. The way to spin that positively would be to say, well, he's just getting experience. But what I really think the reason behind that is because they want to make sure that he can handle playing 4 quarters and that there is a legitimate conditioning issue with Treylon Burks. That might scare some people. That's okay. That's baked into his ADP. I like him better than Drake London if they're both on an even playing field and there's no conditioning issue. Since there seems to be one, I can draft Burks after Drake London. I could get them both if I wanted to. And I still think that there is a very big target share for the taking in Tennessee. I watched Robert Woods play too. He was fine. He moved well. I'm happy because I like Robert Woods and he's coming back from the ACL. But I think Treylon Burks is going to be good. I feel like he's this year's this is going to sound really funny. He's this year's Jamar Chase in that he had a bad preseason in terms of headlines and bad buzz and bad vibes. And I think he's just going to go out there in the regular season and have a good year. So right. I'm happy to take him. And Gage, we haven't seen for a while, and we know there's a hamstring injury there. But I watched Julio play. He's running like a tight end. We know that Mike Evans already had the hamstring issue. He seems fine. We know that Godwin's has the ACL he's coming back from. He should be fine. Those guys should play week 1. At some point during the year, the Bucs are going to need Russell Gage. I'm hoping that I have the patience to keep him on my bench for as long as possible so that he can come through when the hamstring heals and he's catching targets from Tom Brady.
Are you taking Russell Gage and Treylon Burks ahead of Julio Jones?
Yes.
I'm definitely taking Treylon Burks ahead of Julio Jones. What I wonder is, do you think, Dave, that they see Burks as eventually the slot that plays, like he has to beat out Kyle Phillips? Because they've really they don't believe that he can beat press coverage right now, right?
I don't know who Burks.
Yes,
I don't know if they believe that or not. I'd be surprised. I think Phillips has looked so good in the slot that there's nobody taking that job.
So other than he has to take it from Westbrook-Ikhine.
Yes, I think that's what's going to happen. Or they rotate those 3 receivers a lot, but I don't think Westbrook-Ikhine is going to be a huge factor in slowing down Burks, at least over the course of the year. Burks could be somebody that gets off to a slow start, and you might go, oh, God, wasted pick. I'm going to cut him. Adams learned that lesson before with rookie first-round receivers.
Yeah. You got to be patient for sure. By the way, I forgot to mention that on our eBay page, we got this awesome ring from Trophy Smack and the championship, the turnover chain championship belt.
You don't have it on you, the turnover chain?
It's over the. I don't feel like getting it right now.
Okay.
But it is so cool, and you can just see a picture of me with it on our eBay page to get a glimpse. Like, it is the most showy, in your face, incredible way to celebrate a Fantasy Football Championship. We're auctioning it off on our eBay page. So please go ahead and take a look at that. And the eBay page, the link is in the episode description for you podcast listeners. Thomas, if you wouldn't mind throwing the eBay link in the chat right now. I just forgot about that. All right, let's go a little quicker out there because we haven't talked too much about the players we're going to avoid. Dave is also drafting a lot of Tom Brady, who, yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of Brady disrespect. Guy was the number 2 quarterback in fantasy last year, so Dave is waiting to take Tom Brady, and you have Isaiah McKenzie as well. Is he behind Isaiah McKenzie, slot receiver for the Bills? Is he behind Russell Gage?
He is not for me, but given the injuries to both receivers, it wouldn't be a surprise if you ended up getting McKenzie in 11 and Gage in 12.
Are you taking those guys ahead of like Dotson and Tolbert and the Rook Garrett Wilson?
Mm-hmm.
See, I like in the same vein as Treylon Burks, I'm just mostly drafting the rookies or second-year wide receivers in that range. I haven't drafted McKenzie or Gage. I don't think I haven't drafted Julio Jones either. I just find myself in those double-digit rounds. Just like I take Treylon Burks, I take Garrett Wilson, I take Jahan Dotson. I just take a bunch of those young guys.
Heath, the guys that you keep drafting, you already talked about Jalen Hurts and Aaron Jones and Brandon Cooks and DJ Moore. Or am I wrong about that?
I didn't talk about Jalen Hurts yet.
Oh,
like
sorry.
Hurts and Brady are definitely my 2 most commonly drafted quarterbacks. And the biggest mistake that I made in our draft last night, and I'm just still a little bit upset about, was I took Jalen Hurts early in round 5. No, it was a 14-team league because I didn't pick again for 28 picks. And then I came back 28 picks later, and Tom Brady was still there. Just wait for Tom Brady.
28 picks later. That's part of the franchise, right? The zombie franchise. No, 28 days later. No, never saw.
See, the thing with mayonnaise is that when it gets old, it separates, and it's weird and gross, and you shouldn't eat it.
Fantasy football zombies popping up 28 picks later. Aaron Jones, Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard, I thought was interesting. I didn't know you were drafting a lot of Tony Pollard. So what's that all about?
This was almost as surprising to me as finding out that I had not drafted any J.K. Dobbins. Is I have Tony Pollard on 5 different teams, which is fantastic. He doesn't in some of our drafts, he gets pushed up a little bit higher, I feel like, but I find Tony Pollard in round 7 sometimes. Like I might draft a running back and a tight end in the first 2 rounds, and then a bunch of wide receivers and a quarterback, and then we get through the dead zone, and somehow Tony Pollard's still sitting there.
So I'm assuming you take Josh Jacobs ahead of Tony Pollard.
Oh yes.
What about Akers?
I've gone back and forth on that one over the last 24 hours, but right now, considering they said Akers was a full participant yesterday, I will take Akers over Pollard.
What about Dameon Pierce or Tony Pollard?
Pierce for sure.
Pierce.
Kareem Hunt or Tony Pollard?
I've taken Pollard over Hunt on multiple occasions.
I'll take Kareem.
What about Devin Singletary?
Whoa, Pollard by 6 rounds.
Singletary.
Ooh.
Yeah.
He is out on Devin Singletary, that's for sure.
Well, I've been out. Yeah. I
Yeah.
don't. I think it's going to be a 3-headed monster there.
I see 3 late round running backs, and they are always in my queue late. Khalil Herbert, Mark Ingram, Jamal Williams. These are just These are not guys you feel like you can start, right? Without it. Actually, no, I'll take that
kind
back.
of lottery tickety.
Herbert, Ingram, Williams. How do you feel about them?
I think that there's an underrated chance that one or more of the 3 could be flex worthy without an injury. And all of the 3 have big time upside if the starter gets hurt. And they go so much later than the other handcuffs. Particularly guys like Jamal Williams and Mark Ingram are often there in like round 14.
Yeah.
And I just don't think that reflects the reality of their situation. I think we're seeing 18 touches a game for Jamal Williams if something happens to DeAndre Swift. We saw Mark Ingram was averaging 19 PPR fantasy points a game without Alvin Kamara last year. Like these guys, Khalil Herbert was awesome without David Montgomery last year. I think these guys have, like in that 14-team league, I would not be surprised if I'm flexing those guys on bye weeks at all. I think they're probably getting 10 touches or more on a regular game.
We know you take DJ Moore a lot. We know you've loved Brandon Cooks. And Cooks where's he ranked for you?
12 or 13 at wide receiver. But again, Cooks is one of those players that I draft him in round 3, and everybody says, why'd you take him in round 3? And then I don't take him in round 3 in one of our drafts, and somebody takes him at the 3-4 turn. But if you're not drafting with CBS people, you can wait until the end of round 4, probably round 5. Like I said, he's 60 not wide receiver 69, but pick 69 in CBS leagues.
Yeah, fantasy football calculator.
Always a nice value for Brandon Cooks.
Cooks is in round 5 there. He's going after Chris Godwin. I'm sorry, Chris Godwin. This run of wide receivers, round 5: Michael Thomas, Allen Robinson, Chris Godwin, Brandon Cooks, Jerry Jeudy, Gabriel Davis, Adam Thielen. This is what I say every other show. Just be in that range. Get wide receivers there. Great values. Now, would you take Brandon Cooks over Chris Godwin or Allen Robinson or Michael Thomas?
Yep.
All 3 of them?
Yep.
Wow. How can you take him over Godwin? Just the ACL?
Yeah. I mean, if Godwin was healthy, I would take him first.
Yeah, I'll go the other way on that one. I'll take those receivers ahead of Cooks. I like Cooks a lot, but I'm losing my love of Davis Mills after this preseason, and I'm definitely seeing what Nico Collins is all about. I wonder if that stuff. I wonder if those two things, along with Houston might have a running game now. I wonder if those things kind of they ding Brandon Cooks a little bit. I think that puts his upside at risk. And now I feel like he's more of that. I feel like he's more of what he's been, which is 1 week great, next week bad, and it's consistent throughout the year that he's a roller coaster. And I feel like there's a chance that those other receivers that you named can be a little more steady for fantasy managers over the course of the year.